not, in fact, the way to make a move on a girl. World War II came to an end shortly before the twins were eligible to go overseas, but not before it took the lives of two of Terry's three older brothers. Bob and Doug's graves would both be visited by Terry decades later on a short pilgrimage to adult years. Terry attended the U of A, where he earned his degree in chemical engineering, where he met lifelong friends, including Pete Simon and Larry Miskew and many others. During summer breaks, Terry was often riding the rails to get to and from various surveying jobs from Saskatchewan to the Alaska Highway. After graduating, he spent 3 years working on and off in Venezuela, where he met another lifelong friend in Brian McKay, who would inspire Dad's desire to one day travel to Australia. I only recently heard the story of the corrupt police trying to pull over the foreign workers to collect bribe money for their release. Apparently, Terry once pulled a daring escape by leaving a cloud of dust on a dirt road to shield his getaway from the pursuing cops. It worked. Who knew Dad was an action hero on top of everything else? Terry returned to Alberta, settling in Calgary, when he was introduced to a young receptionist at the U of A on a blind date, I think. They say love is blind. Judy was from Nova Scotia, where they were married less than a year later in 1957. Judy joined Terry in Calgary, where Terry worked for Great Plains, a small oil company where the men developed strong connections and were part of the couple's social life for years to come, including many company ski trips. Friend Jim Gilders recalled my mom's lack of love for the sport in a story involving Mom's head buried in a snowbank while Terry skied one more run before attending to his distressed wife. Skiing was only one of the many sports Dad continued to enjoy for years to come. Badminton, curling, tennis, and golf trophies and beer steins adorned shelves and cupboards as he enjoyed all these activities, as well as bridge and gym rummy into his 60s and beyond. We'd lose to him in tennis well into his 70s, and I don't know if any of us were able to beat him in golf, maybe in his 90s. The Earl Grey Golf Club, the Glencoe Club, and various bridge groups were his social and athletic foundation for decades. Between 1959 and 1970, Terry and Judy had their 4 children: Anne, Sandy, Bob, and yours truly. All 3 boys served as Dad's golf caddy at one time or another, and likely either wasn't invited or was not interested in the boys' club. As their family grew, they moved into the house on 7A Street in Elbow Park, just down the hill from here, actually. Could see it if it wasn't for the smoke, I think. The 1970s were event-filled too. Summer vacations in Premier Lake, trips across Canada to visit family on both coasts, New Year's Eve parties to be hosted. Great Plains was bought out, leading to Terry's move to North End. I remember visiting his corner office on the 32nd, top floor, where I would always turn his photo cube so I would be the face he'd see from his chair. Dad and Mom even finally went overseas together to England. I think she married me because she thought I was a traveler because of my time in Venezuela, he would later tell me. His diet had changed too. Meat and potatoes, celery, and burnt toast. I'll have the burnt piece. I like it like that. And so that's how we got it. For a long time. Mom might say, do we have to have roast beef again? She would respond by saying, your father would have given his eye teeth for roast beef when he was young. Clearly, Mom had bought the only oatmeal story. Regardless, a good indication of how times changed throughout Terry's life. In 1978, though, the far too early passing of his beloved wife Judy, it was that stimulated the biggest change. Terry, the single parent. A challenge he rose to and accepted with poise and seeming confidence. Family had always been a focus, and if anything, was even more so now. Often visiting or hosting his brothers, Patty and Dawn and their families, and Mom's siblings too. Her brother Sandy's kids often joined their Uncle T-Bone at Premier Lake or for a ski trip in Montana or BC. He hosted at least 4 longer-term house guests, I remember. Nieces Sally, then Margaret, with Malcolm nephew in between, and finally family friend Laura Jean Lindsay, who is here today. Trips continued, including Mexico on the Gilder's boat, with gambling on high-lie games at Tijuana Tilly's, and a Christmas in Hawaii. Sorry, Sammy. Who can forget what I call Engagement Eve, December 29th, 1982, when both Anne and Sandy announced their engagements to Anna, Andrew and Sylvia at the same gathering, 2 days before New Year's Eve. January 1st, 1987, Stephen arrived, Terry's first of 8 grandchildren over the next 16 years. Paul, Aaron, Karina, Bobby, Franklin, Liam, and Layla all were to follow. More family, more travel and visiting, and more sports and activities to attend. This retirement thing was going to be all right. In 1988, Calgary hosted the Winter Olympics, where, with a little intervention from university friend Pete Simon, Terry met Barbara Hay, and they were besties for the rest of Terry's life. Together they enjoyed Flames and Stampeders games, Theatre Calgary, concerts, bridge, dinners out, weekends in Canmore, their hiking group, and trips. Lots of them. The Adriatic coast, the Danube River cruise, Newfoundland, St. Pierre and Miquelon, South Africa and Swaziland, and New Year's Eve, the Millennium, in Costa Rica, just to name a few. It wasn't long before Terry's last 2 sons, Bob and Tom, were also getting married to Anna and Pickle. The big house would be too big, so came the move to the Rideau Towers, just on the other side of the park here. Terry's last residence and final home. Food by the end was often supplemented by martinis, Skittles, and of course Yukon Jack, introduced by his son Sandy after working summers up north, I believe. Additional trips during retirement for Terry included 2 journeys to southern Africa in a year. First for the Pickle Circle tour of Zimbabwe. That's when Dad caught the biggest tigerfish on the Zambezi canoe trip with the side of his face. It's a true story, ask later. No rod required to bag that beauty, Daddy. Eat your heart out. Second, for Tom and Pickle's wedding in Zimbabwe and an extension to South Africa with Judy's brother Nat. Terry also realized a long-time dream when, in 2012, he visited Tom's family in Australia for several weeks, including a road trip in classic cars with old friend Brian McKay. As he started to mellow a bit, walks to Princess Obolemsky Park, just on the other side of the parking lot, outside the gate, for views of the mountains and the river, became the destination of choice for Terry on family strolls. I'm not sure what sort of relationship people thought Terry was involved in, as they'd overhear him talk about another visit with the princess. So there it is, the oral history of Terry Adamson's 93 years. Not to be found in textbooks, but the lessons to be learned are no less valuable. When I teach history and social studies, it's not merely about dates and events. It's about how those people and events shape what has been, what is, and what will be. Today, I've given you the dates and events. It's up to you to reflect on how Terry has shaped you and what has been, is, and will be. Whether you are privy to a short but impactful lesson in kindness and generosity by this gentleman, a couple I've heard in the last week or so include, Terry taught me humility, and if everybody was like Terry, the world wouldn't have as many problems as it has. Or a foundational impact on how you try to live every single day, as I have been gifted. You were one of the fortunate ones. Lesson done. Impact, lifelong and beyond. Live the legacy. Thank you, Dad. I love you. Here's my brother Sandy with a shorter.
Dad wanted to share Lou Gehrig's famous speech at his memorial. Lou had been diagnosed with the terrible disease ALS and was still able to feel fortunate about his life. He started his speech with, "For the past 2 weeks you have been reading about a bad break, yet today I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth." Lou Gehrig, like our father, understood the many blessings that had been bestowed upon him during his life. He was able to keep perspective about the news of a disease that would take his life. More important than the illness was the life that he had lived and the people he had shared it with. This is a rare and wonderful quality to have, and our father had this quality in spades. I would read you the rest of Lou Gehrig's speech, but it isn't really relevant. Our father, although a good athlete in his day, did not play professional baseball and did not have New York Yankees teammates and managers to feel gratitude toward. Dad's reasons for feeling lucky were different in detail, but similar in depth and sincerity. Dad felt blessed to have had the family that he did. Clearly, he has 4 wonderful children. He has always embraced our choices, accepted our frailties, supported our endeavors, and loved us unconditionally. His love and support form the foundation upon which we have built our lives. Dad also loved, truly loved, the people we chose to spend our lives with. His children-in-law, Andrew, Sylvia, Anna, and Pickle, were hugely important to him and helped to fill his life with joy. The fact that they all have family backgrounds from around the world only served to add color and depth to Dad's life. Each of them was special and cherished by Dad, and I have been assured that the feeling was mutual. As much as he loved our generation, it was the next generations who really filled Dad's heart with joy. Although they are now spread across the continent and beyond, Dad felt a closeness to each of them. He loved hearing any detail of their lives. Whenever he would get a phone call or a visit from one of his grandkids, he would glow. He had trouble believing that they could find time in their busy lives for him. I can only hope that Steve and Paul, Aaron, Karina, Bobby, Franklin, Liam, and Layla, and their significant others have some idea of how much they were loved by their grandfather, and how very proud he was of each and every one of them. The same goes for his great-grandchildren Emma and Adam, and I know they all loved him. Dad has many, many nieces and nephews, and they are spread around the world. Uncle Terry was looked upon fondly by all of them. At least 3 of them spent time living under Dad's roof at different times. Dad always enjoyed hearing from or hearing about his extended family. Dad was part of many different groups of people, some more formal than others over the years. He had his golf buddies. He had various bridge groups that he enjoyed. Dad was a proud member of his hiking group that became a walking group, and eventually just a pizza and beer group. In his younger years, he had his hockey friends, his badminton friends, and his tennis friends. These activities were all important to him, mostly because of the wonderful people that he met and spent time with. Dad loved our mom. Their love was obvious to those of us who saw them together. When Mom passed away far too young, Dad reinvented himself as a single father. If Dad spent any time wallowing in self-pity, we never saw it. There was a job to do, and so we did it, gladly and without rancor. And he did it well and felt lucky to be doing it. After we were all grown, Dad's great luck continued. He met Barbara, who would become his life companion for over 30 years. Their travels and hikes and meals together became things for which I know that my father was truly, truly grateful. Dad was lucky because he could find joy in little everyday things. He would marvel every time a goose flew by. Dad felt lucky to live in a world with crocuses, cribbage boards, and curling rocks. In a world with mountain lakes, skittles, celery, and Yukon Jack. Dad's world was filled with humor and laughter. You may not have known Dad played tennis, or that he was from a small town, or that he had 4 wonderful children, but anyone who met Dad knew he had a great, understated sense of humor. He was always able to find the bright side. When he golfed poorly, he enjoyed the weather and the company. A trip to the hospital meant warm blankets and pretty nurses. Getting lost meant that we were taking the scenic route. Every day is a good day when you can appreciate the little joys. Dad was the type of guy who would stop and smell the roses, figuratively and literally. He was also a glass half full kind of guy, also figuratively and literally. Both Lou Gehrig and Dad had much to teach us about gratitude. Certainly Dad was grateful for a long life, but more importantly, he was thankful for the people in his life that made it so full and meaningful. A life well lived. If you're here today, then you are very likely one of the people that made Dad feel so lucky. And for helping Dad feel thankful and lucky, we thank you.
Hi, I'm Ann. I'm the oldest and only daughter, and shortest, and sort of talk, so good news. Okay. As many of you know, I've been living in the United States for the last 35 years or more. The States has been a complicated place, and the current pandemic has certainly heightened and exposed people's fears and frustrations. It's been pretty discouraging. I would say recently things have started to improve. For me, one hopeful sign has been these little wooden red hearts people are planting in their lawns and gardens. And on them is written just in plain white print, "Be kind." Every time I see one of these signs, I remember my dad. Kind, a sympathetic attitude towards others, and a willingness to do good and give pleasure. My dad was a kind man. When we were young, we understood that how we treated people was the important thing. Good grades and nice awards were welcome, but the real measure of success was in the kindnesses, large and small, that you were able to give to the people around you. My dad really enjoyed people. I'm sure my brothers have also been introduced by name to the cashier at Safeway, the receptionist at the podiatrist's office, the neighbor shoveling snow, really anybody that could take a moment and exchange the pleasantries. I like to think it brightened the day of many people with these small exchanges. It certainly cheered him. My dad would tell you he had had a lucky life. I think we've been lucky to have shared some of it with him. I'm going to miss him. I think we'll do that.
Hello, I am Terry's youngest grandchild. I have been lucky enough to live in the same city as him for my entire life. I've had the privilege of spending many of my Christmases, Thanksgivings, birthdays, and many more holidays and memories with Grandpa. To me, Grandpa is walks or rolls to the princess, the first robin of spring, microwaving coffees many times, Safeway trips, sleepovers with pancake mornings, FaceTiming with his forehead, playing Oh Hell, with a little more swearing as I got older, games and drinks, the grandpa face when he found out I was going out another night, or the grandpa face when I only studied one night before my test, the soccer games that he stumbled upon after accidentally watching another game for the first half of my soccer game. The special events I was lucky enough to have him attend, and the golf games I got to play with Grandpa, where he would assure me the ball did not need to go over the tee box, or that we would have enough balls even if I lost one each hole. These are the few things that are Grandpa to me, and I know everyone has their own version of what Grandpa is to them. But to all of us, Grandpa was humble, kind, witty, joyful, selfless, caring, spectacular, and he had a positive impact on everyone he met. We hope to see Grandpa in ourselves, in our children, and in all the good people who have been lucky enough to speak to our special Grandpa. I know he loved, he laughed, and he lived fully and always. He was my best friend, my biggest supporter, and the person I hope to be. Grandpa would say I love you with a cane to the shin or a pull of my hair. I say I love you, Grandpa.
I clearly should have gone first. Stupid rock, paper, scissors. Hello everyone, my name is Liam and I'm Terry's youngest grandson. I would like to thank everyone for coming today and thank those who are watching the live stream. My sister Layla and I never met our other grandparents, so Grandpa took the title. He said to me one time when we were discussing this, "When you were born, I thought to myself, oh gosh, no pressure or anything." It is clear to me that the pressure he joked about that day never got to him. I have no bigger role model than my grandpa, and there is no one I strive to be more like than my grandpa. Some stuff in my eyes here. I have a few stories here I would like to share. Each one is only about an hour and a half, so no intermission will be needed. First, here we go. Grandpa was involved in many different activities, which brought him joy. I believe what brought him the most joy, however, was sharing these activities with his loved ones, his friends and family. Golf was arguably one of his favorite pastimes, and family members were often lucky enough to lose to him in a round. Once, when my parents were out of town, Grandpa took Layla and I to the Earl Grey for a 9-hole game. We started at the driving range, of course, and I think after Layla and my first shot, he thought he may have made a mistake. My dirt patch managed to go further than my ball, and Layla's ball managed to go backwards. We then spent the next 20 minutes with golf lessons from Grandpa, which is why I putt left-handed. The 9 holes we played that day were full of laughter and questions about which way our ball went and how many shots were too many shots. That day will forever live in my heart. Years later, after everyone else had said they were busy, I was invited to play with Grandpa and his 2 good friends, Steve Ozar and Dave Talbot. Till this day, I am still honored to have been considered to join those 3 for a game. I may offend some people here, but I have never been with a cooler group of fellas in my life. In 2012, my family was fortunate enough to spend a year in Australia. It was an amazing year. Out of an entire year of incredible memories, the ones that I hold closest to my heart are from when Grandpa came to visit us. I remember we once rode on camels on the beach in the town we were living in. And at the end of it, the camels sit down so you can get off. They're not the most graceful of creatures, and their movements when they sit down create a whiplash situation. Anyway, when we got off, Grandpa said quietly to me, "I think there was something wrong with my horse." During his visit, we also went to the Great Barrier Reef and spent a few nights on a tiny island. I was roomies with Grandpa. We snorkeled together and saw the most incredible fish and sea life. We even followed a sea turtle around for a while. That evening, I must have eaten something suspicious, or perhaps swallowed too much seawater. I did not feel well, but Grandpa stayed up with me into the early morning telling jokes and stories that kept my mind occupied. Grandpa taught me to always look for the funny side of crappy situations. It is something that has helped me in everyday life, because as we know, not every day is amazing, but we can have amazing moments if you look for them. Grandpa was often there for us during sports, school plays, band concerts, and other special events. Grandpa would often come over on Halloween, just at the beginning, to see our costumes and take us to the first couple of houses before letting us loose on the neighborhood. He was also there for Christmas. Christmas for me is Grandpa. There were certain events that had to take place as Christmas approached. For example, decorating the tree. Grandpa would come over for dinner, and then we would move to eggnog, then to Yukon Jack, and then to decorate the tree. The next day would be spent rearranging the ornaments Grandpa had put on the tree. Then, Christmas Eve, Layla and I would sit on either side of Grandpa, and he would read The Night Before Christmas, right up until last year. I have never heard the real version of The Night Before Christmas. But I can guarantee Grandpa's versions, all 18 of them, were funnier and more entertaining than the original. Grandpa would often say at family meals or events, or even just sitting watching a Blue Jays game with a family member or two, "Gee, they should have named me Lucky." That statement sums up my grandpa's outlook on life. Always look for the good in situations and people. You can find it. And remember that love and family is all you really need. Well, and Skittles.
Well, I don't have anything to read because I tried to write a few paragraphs and they sounded pretty stilted. And it's pretty hard to talk from the heart when you're reading something online. But I would like you to know that I am the elusive Barbara Hay that came into Terry's life shortly after the Olympics. And we had many happy times together. But I would like to particularly tell you about the way we met, which I found quite interesting. I had a nursing friend who was determined to find someone to be a companion for me. And it was a very difficult task for her because I was a busy person. I had a job, I was involved with the Olympics, and I had a pretty good life. But finally, her husband Pete, who you've heard about, came home one day from a golf tournament with the grand news that his friend Terry was a widower. And oh boy, let's do something about this. Well, those two put their heads together and they planned a very delightful evening for us at the Petroleum Club to meet. And we had a nice dinner. And I do think maybe they gave Terry my phone number, I'm not sure. But off we went. And Terry, being Terry, as you all know, did never do anything in a hurry. And probably about 2 or 3 weeks later, it was the end of September, I got a phone call one day. Would I like to go for a bike ride? And I thought, well, that sounds exciting, except that I'm in the middle of raking leaves in my backyard, and the winter was coming, and I had to finish raking the leaves. So he came over and raked leaves in my backyard, and then we sat on the patio and had a beer. And that was, I guess, the first time we actually had a quiet day together, which was pretty exciting. And then time passed, and I was busy, and he was busy, and one thing led to another. I inherited my son-in-law's hockey tickets because the family had moved to Taiwan and he had season tickets. And so I needed someone to go with me, and it turned out that Terry was a hockey fan. And so we started going to hockey games. And I was a particularly avid football fan, and I used to go to football games by myself. And finally, after about 3 years, he decided that this wasn't much fun. He'd come too if we could get a ticket. So he got a ticket, and from then on, we went to all the football games. He became good friends of my friends who I'd been going with. We went to several Grey Cups together, and that, again, another phase of our sporting life. But there's so many stories that I won't even bore you with all of them, but one thing I would like to say is that I took it upon myself to try to think of an innovative birthday present for him every year. And this was not an easy task. But I think I succeeded quite admirably because I was able to finally secure a vacation every summer at Lake O'Hara Lodge, which was his favorite place in the Rocky Mountains. And we spent many summers hiking up there and meeting wonderful people. And one other very interesting birthday gift I gave him, which he was so impressed, he didn't know you could do this. I bought tickets to a Blue Jays game in Toronto, got a hotel room and booked a flight, and off we went to Toronto to watch the Blue Jays. And I see Franklin nodding in the background. He was living in Toronto at the time, so we spent some time with Franklin as well. So that was a very exciting birthday gift for him. And the other present that I do remember, and if you look in your little pamphlet you got, there's a picture of Terry and St. Pierre Miquelon. And our little hiking group did several interesting group trips together as we got older. And one of them was to Newfoundland. And I just decided that what I would do when everybody was leaving for home was to arrange a stopover in St. Pierre Miquelon. And so we had a 3-day trip to St. Pierre Miquelon, and I actually took that picture. I'm proud to see it displayed to all of you. But those were the funny things we did and the fun things we did. And we enjoyed all the people we met, both his friends and my friends. He became active in the Family Leisure Center because of me, and our hiking group was very important to him, and our biking group. And I'm just so excited to see 4 of the bikers of our old senior biking group still here. And I don't know if any of you who bike in the city know this, but you can actually bike from Fish Creek Park to Bonnett's Park and back again. And we did it.
You may.
I beg your pardon?
You may cycle that.
You may. Okay. Yeah, there's a pretty good bike track. Anyway, we had a lot of good trips with the biking group, and of course our hiking group was pretty important to us. We had many adventures with them, and I'm happy to see a few of our friends here today to help remembering Terry. And I just want to say it's been a good life. He had a good life, and I'm sure that he realized that. Thank you.
So there's one more here. This is from a really good friend of Grandpa's or Dad's, of Terry's for more than 70 years, Larry Miskew, who met him back in university. So he wasn't able to make it today, but he wrote this out for us to read out. Terry was a close friend for 74 years. I met him in 1947 in Edmonton, where we enrolled at the University of Alberta to advance our educational levels. We shared similar interests in sports and social functions. The Adamson family were most accommodating and graceful. They were kind and understanding, treating me like a member of their extended family. It was like being in the comfort of a second home away from our family residence. We had great respect for each other. His magnetic personality bonded well with mine. The respect he received as a professional engineer in business management is acknowledged by his peers in the petroleum industry. It should also be noted that his interpersonal skills functioned at an elevated level, complementing his other attributes. Terry's passing leaves an open sadness in my life, but the fond memories will be everlasting, a life to remember. And just one little addition to that, I think I can speak for my brothers and sisters, where I can say, you know, later on we learned with very probing, direct questions only, that Dad really had very, you know, responsible jobs, like with a tremendous amount of stress and pressure for anyone. He never said a single word about work at home. And he loved his work. He had many friends from work over the years. When he would see those friends, it was golf, they weren't talking about work. And when he came home to his family, it was 100% family. It was just astounding. Just before we do our last presentation, I just want to point out that we did something a little unusual in Dad's last days. We actually read out Sandy's eulogy for Dad, and he just loved it. He absolutely loved it. And what we're going to show you right now, we also showed to Dad, and he loved it. And we hope you can enjoy the memories with us too. What could go wrong?
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying how do you do. They're really saying I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They learn much more than I ever knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see, no, I won't be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, or the mountain should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand now, stand by me, stand by me. Stand by me, stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, won't you stand by me? Oh, stand by me. Won't you stand now? Oh,
Smile, though your heart is aching. Smile, even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through for you. Light up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness. Although a tear may be ever so near, that's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile. That's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile.
when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? Happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow. Why, oh, why can't I?
it on? Sorry. We're coming around with some trays, so everyone may grab a small Yukon Jack, or water if you prefer, to toast Terry. Meanwhile, we would like to thank you all for coming and attending in person and online. And a special thank you to everyone who helped us put this celebration together. I had a list. It was too long. But we are truly grateful. Thank you. Everyone is invited and encouraged to check out the view. In spite of the smoke, it's still pretty nice. And the gardens as you mingle, share stories, and enjoy refreshments. There'll be food laid out on the side over here, and there's drinks and beverages just outside on the deck. I'm just going to hold on a second while people are out.
There's 2 waters if you guys would like.
Everyone got a glass? Okay, short and sweet.
Oh.
Toast,
I heard you doing that to
Terry
him.
Lucky Adamson. Thank you for making our world a better place, one smile at a time. Terry. See, now you know. You're on that. They were originally really upset that Terry wouldn't be keeping Yukon Jack afloat anymore. But once they knew that everybody was going to be sampling it here, they knew that you would keep the legacy alive. So. That's the end of the program. The pictures will be on loop for anyone who wants to stick around and see one again, see your face again in there. Otherwise, please grab a drink from outside, mingle amongst yourselves. We're going to start moving some of the chairs away so you can stand up and mingle, but we'll leave chairs as well if anyone really wants one. Please get up.
No worries. So we're just back up there. Whatever. Thank you. Thank you.